What is going on, everybody? And in this video, we are giving you a state of the market in stock picks for May 6, 2022. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, consider subscribing, as I do provide daily and weekly updates to get you prepared for the day and week ahead. Now, interesting day indeed. We had a 5% index correction on the NASDAQ today. We almost hit circuit breaker today. It came down pretty quick this morning, then kind of slowly started to die out. Something we kind of saw on Monday, where we had that slow bleed off, and I said we had a break essentially back over that 41.31 mark, or else we'd be in big trouble. So far, again today, we were flirting with that line. Something I've been talking about. I don't like the fact that the market has been flirting with this line and hugging this line, because it only means the longer it stays here, the sooner it's going to break. And if we do break, we're going to flush possibly a couple of 100 points from that from there. So what is exactly caused this? Ultimately, we know we had Powell yesterday. This is why it's so important, and why I talk about how you have to let the market digest the information that comes out from the Fed. Now, the reason we potentially popped yesterday, and I thought potentially we could have ran, because of the fact that we had a 50-point. We came in with estimates. What they were estimating was a 50-point basis move. There was a lot of chatter about a 75-point basis move. And so when it came in at expectation, the market was excited about that, even though that is actually horribly bad, that we got a 50-point basis move. I believe it's been actually decades since we had a 50-point basis move. It's been a very long time. So being said, the market liked that to an extent. And then today you came in, and all we did was completely flush. We have to understand that there's world politics going around too. There's a lot of stuff going on with the EU, and oil is playing a huge part in that whole battle with Russia, and how Russia controls a very large portion of the EU oil supply. And so there's been that battle. There's been a battle that they've been raising rates extremely high as well. And so the next thing is are they going to hit a 75-point basis move on the next meeting? We do have Powell, I think in a month. This isn't the actual meeting, I don't believe. I have to double check on that, but he is supposed to come and talk. So we're going to have to see. He admitted yesterday too that he knew inflation was starting to run away, and that's not a good sign when it comes out of Powell's mouth, especially for coming all the way into this year. He was saying it was transitory, and then he corrected himself, and then he's been backpedaling ever since. And now he essentially stated yesterday that it is getting, inflation is getting quite up there. But he said that he is seeing signs that it could be transitory. He didn't want to bring it up. He kind of caught himself because of that fact. He didn't want people to hold him accountable for that, because you don't know if it's going to be transitory or not until time passes. And determining if the whole reason because of this was because of the strain on the supply. So being said, we closed above. The big question tomorrow is, are we going to open below essentially this 41.32 mark? If we open below this tomorrow, we are going to see a very, very bloody day tomorrow. And obviously, that's definitely not good, because once we start hitting that level, then you start looking on the 50 on the daily, or 50 on the you start aiming towards the 50 on the monthly, and that's sitting around the 200 weekly. So it could be a potentially big drop, because as soon as you break the 200 monthly, you'll get a pretty nice dive. So if I was to, you could use Fibonacci retracement and kind of field this out. But typically what will happen, it happens on lower time frames, the same kind of thing on higher time frames. But when you get that initial break, so let's say it breaks tomorrow, maybe we hit 4K tomorrow. Then we'll backpedal and retest the 41.31. At that point, you're going to get a heavier flush down to possibly that 50. Now, again, on higher time frames, you're not going to hit that exact line. So there's a lot of different stops down here, a lot of psychological levels. You got the 3,900, the 3,800. That could potentially be reversal spots, especially higher time frames. When you start getting closer to that 50 is more of a reversal. So that's what I'm kind of thinking on this. If we do break here, it's going to be short-lived, this downfall here. And then I think at that point, we're going to start picking back up and running from that point. But if they're going to start threatening 70-point basis moves, you got to remember that since last Thursday, Powell just mentioned a 50-point basis move, and we fell 10% in what, a week? In about a week, we fell 10%. Now, if they're starting to threaten a 75-point basis move, the market might try to drop another 10% from there. So you're talking 10% to here, and then you're looking at another potential 10%. Would put you close to that 200, and that's roughly around where the 50 monthly is. So, or you can potentially even just go 5 because you're trying to add another 25-point basis to what is already kind of being priced in. So maybe you get roughly around that 39K. It's kind of what I'm thinking. Now, again, this is just an educational guess here. It's not saying it's going to happen. But if we do break that, we're going to flush pretty heavy. And that's a good, 200 points, 300 points to the downside. If that happens, you'll get another one of these moves to the downside. If they're trying to capture a 75-point basis move, what they try to do is try to price it in, and then they just kind of let the market go. The market will run back up to these levels, say 46K, it runs back up to this, and then we get Powell again, and then we sink back down, given whatever basis points we get from that point. So it's a really rough year. It's extremely volatile, but again, like I've been saying, you don't need a lot to make a lot. Even like today, you could have bought cheap puts and they would have been up a couple 100%. Now tomorrow, options themselves will be juiced to the downside because of that, because of all the massive volatility and the big historical move we had today on the NASDAQ. So being said, going for stock picks tomorrow. Ultimately, if you are new, I definitely would not be in the market. I would just wait for things to play out. Otherwise, I think the best thing to do is, if you're not playing to the downside, if you're not playing a big tech tomorrow that hasn't already been crushed, is to just sit and wait. And I wouldn't play calls until the trend has been down. We've hit a couple of spots that we could have reversed. And again, really depending where we open up tomorrow. If we open up tomorrow below this, you can expect us to flush even harder tomorrow. So just be mindful of that. But and then, like I said, you're going to get that retest of the 20, and then you'll sell down at that point. Again, this is not going to be in one day. This will probably take multiple days, probably take next week. But if we start coming around that 39 and stuff, those I think will be good reversal points. Again, it's also the 20, the 200 a weekly. And again, 200s in general are really good reversals. And if you got the 200 and the 50 on the higher time frame sitting around here, it's going to be a good reversal somewhere around this area down here. Again, we'll get that break, we'll get that retest, and then we'll get some sort of dump. And on that dump is essentially, I think, going to be the dip. And then from that point, I think if we start heading back up, again, all-time highs is hard in this market. Again, I think the back half of the year will be good, but we'll have to see. We still got a lot going on with the market and battling inflation. And if it starts getting too carried away and the Fed come on too strong, and then they might start cutting rates, not try to go too high, and then so you're going to get there's just going to be a lot of volatility in general. Just be mindful of that. But you're going to see stuff like this going on, these massive parabolic runs and these massive drops. But what the good thing is on the higher time frames, it is starting to look like things are playing good technical wise, which in the beginning of the year things weren't playing good at all technical wise. because of we were trying to determine what the Fed was going to do. Now we kind of know. Now it's more so, okay, well, if there's any rate news that comes out, it's dropping us. So we hit technical levels and we dropped. So even like yesterday, I talked about this level. More so on some of these other time frames. But we were retesting that 20, I think it was Tesla. You tested that, you get a full break, retest the 20. EMEA on the weekly is that first one we hit in a long time. A lot of charts look like this. So this gap from that Thursday, essentially when Powell was talking, the gap down pretty hard. And so all this in between here, that 20 weekly was slowly creeping down. Yesterday, last night I talked about we had a break above that, and we were sitting right on top of it. Again, it was the first retest, and something I've always talked about. If it is the first one, normally we get a hard rejection off that, and that's exactly what we got today. But it could be actually pretty bullish. It really depends. I'm still bullish on the market going up. I don't think we're going to keep crashing even if we fall. I don't think it's going to be much more. But you have to understand, just looking at the market in general, it's just it's been pretty choppy, especially going into this year. It's just been nothing but chop. Parabolic moves, drops, parabolic moves, drops. It's just big chop patterns. And even last year, before coming into this year, every time we made an all-time high, it would last only for a couple hours and sell off. So again, I still believe towards the end of the back half of the year, we'll start getting more stability and start heading more back towards all-time highs. But we got to get through all this, these rate raises and try to get, once inflation is under control, which is not saying it's going to be a quick thing, but the volatility definitely isn't going anywhere soon. So that being said, as far as picks, I'm not really have any picks tomorrow. We can look at Bitcoin real quick. Bitcoin's still holding that level, hit 35. Again, we're starting to get close to that level. We're starting to flirt with that 32. Again, I think we could possibly come in here and wick like we did back here. We've wicked a couple of times back here and then start heading back up. I think could be a strong possibility. Again, anything is possible. To understand the market changes on a dime, even though this is why I put out daily videos, because it's these things change, right? I think ultimately want to be a perma bull because the market is designed that way, but ultimately understand that on these intraday news and events that things change quickly, and that overnight digestion is extremely important. Again, just because that 50-point basis move was what we were expecting, the market got excited and they're like, oh wait, well 50 points is actually really bad. And so the market corrected on it today because of that. So after the overnight digestion. So being said, again, looking at tomorrow, I don't think there's really anything that's not already beat down. Big thing is how we open up. Tech started holding towards the end of the day. So this could very well gap back up and we can start taking off. This could have been a retest on all these breakouts that we had. Google, even Apple here. We could gap up, we could gap down. This one actually looks like a full break back in, so this one is hard to tell. But everything is sitting around that cusp. I just looked at that one today. Shop did really bad today too, so it didn't help with Amazon selling off pretty heavy as well. And then you got the 20-for-1. This is why a lot of the big tech stocks try to do stock splits this year to try to prevent recession. But if we get another correction, these things will be essentially pennies to the dollar by the time they do get that split. NVIDIA. Again, everything breakout, and it could be a possible breakout and retest still. It really just depends on how we open. Tomorrow's going to be critical if we break through that level or not, or these are perfect retests going into tomorrow. See, tomorrow, as long as NVIDIA doesn't break 182, I think it's actually pretty strong. This looks really good. It looks like a break and a retest. This is what you should see on a break, is a nice retest on the daily and then start heading back up. But if the overall market, general market, the banks and everything If you could take a look at the banks real quick, with general market sentiment is down, this breakout's not going to mean anything. Could start selling off. But even you look at the banks like Goldman Sachs here, which is one of the bigger banks. This is something that's nice to see, right? Because you need the banks for the index to start going up. You're getting a nice wedge here, descending wedge. I don't like a lot of patterns, but I do like the descending and ascending wedges. Those are one of the few, and also the pennant plays are the only ones I really like to play. Everything else I think is junk in my mind. But I mean, you can play what you want to play, but that's just my experience. Now it's descending wedge, and typically what that means is you get a nice breakout to the upside after these, and that's what I'm kind of looking at. If we get a nice break with the banks, it's not saying it will, but there's a high percentage that this is going to play to the upside. They get a breakout of the banks, that's going to help pull the index up, and then tech has been holding. As long as tech holds, I think that will allow us to push everything back up and then get us back into a safer zone than we're currently in. So we will definitely have to see what is going on with this market. But being said, that is pretty much what I got. Again, I don't want to give too much information because it is a Friday and most people shouldn't be taking positions tomorrow anyway. It really just depends on how the market opens. So if you made this far, I appreciate you. Go ahead and drop a like on the video. And until next time, I'll see you guys later.